What is going on, Roundtable Sports, and welcome back into another episode here at Draftaholics. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I immediately hit that intro and was thrown off. I don't know when StreamYard changed the music for the 30-second intro, but that is not what I was expecting. It threw me off.
I thought you put like a custom song
I'm
in there.
not the only one that was a little thrown off when this video started. Okay, it's a good thing we ran the intro because I would have been sitting here with the most confused face y'all have ever seen. But welcome back into another episode. We are super excited to continue to break down everything happening with the draft. As you guys know, one of the most pivotal points in the draft process is currently going on, and that is the combine. Now, we were trying to figure out what to do this week. Do we sit down? Do we break down the combine live with you guys as it's happening? And then we went, well, how many people are actually watching the combine? Let's not do that. We do want to, though, wait off on doing another mock draft. We have done 2 mock drafts up to this point, one without trades, one with trades. Make sure you guys go ahead and check those out. We'll be back with mock drafts next week, but Broshmo made a great point with a lot of players' values ultimately changing here. It doesn't make sense to do another mock draft until the combine is actually over. So we're going to halt here, and what we're going to do today is we're going to break down some of the latest news involving the players, involving teams over the last few days, especially because of league meetings or ownership meetings, whatever. We've been able to kind of get a little bit more insight on what teams are looking to do in the draft, whether they want to stay put, trade down, trade up, and also how they view certain players. A lot of news we need to break down to update you guys. But before we do that, Derek, how you doing? Let's go around the table. Let's see how we feeling today.
I'm feeling much better than I was last week. Still kind of have a little bit of the cough that I was dealing with last week, but nevertheless, feeling a lot better from an actual health standpoint. So I'm just glad to be on here and not feel too miserable.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Derek. I knew you were sick when at number 4. I'm not gonna spoil it. But when you went with a certain player in our mock draft at 4 last week, let me tell you, all week long I had to see poor Derek get dragged through the mud on social media when we posted that. But it's all right, Derek. It's all right. We did some round table quality control after that one. We're all good now. But Dose, how you doing?
Yo, I missed that. Hold up. I knew there was some interaction from the last mock draft. I didn't know how far away. I thought it's pretty awesome, though. I mean, I keep getting these ats, and it's like, hey, yo, this is trash. Those kind of things. But no, it's great, man. That's what you love about the mock offseason season. And then, the combine is the last step. So it's like once we hit this, there's nothing else to look forward to. We're just doing mock drafts. So ton of time to get that in. But you always got to have those 4 days where people get super hyped, as Broshmo would say about the guy that's 280 pounds running the fastest 40. And it's like, wait a minute, that's who we should draft. It's great. It's a good time.
How you doing, Broshmo?
Doing good. About ready to do a lot of data input with all these numbers coming through. Probably doing better than some of the defensive linemen at the combine with that new turf. They're slipping and sliding during them drills.
Hey, man, what else is new? Welcome to the damn combine, ruining people's draft stocks. But, guys, before we start to break down some of the latest news, I do want to let you know about something new that Roundtable Sports is doing. This is something that we're not doing just here on Draftaholics, not just on Roundtable Sports, but this is something that involves every single Roundtable Sports show. So the AFC East Roundtable, the NFC East Roundtable, all of the roundtables we have. So right now that is linked in the description box below. This is one of the best ways to currently support us over on Patreon. It is monthly, but with any of these tiers, you can actually click this. You will save 20% if you pay annually. So you pay for the entire year up front and you are going to save 20%. So if you want to do the practice squad tier, instead of $3, it's $2.40. And if you want to do the starter pack, instead of $5, it's $4. The Pro Bowler, instead of $10, it's $8. For the starter, instead of $5, it's $4. Actually, I think we already said that. All Pro, instead of $25, is $20. And then a Hall of Famer, instead of $50, it's $40. To break down some of the really cool things that each of these tiers have, if you go on here over to the practice squad, here, we'll turn this off for now. The practice squad, you get Patreon shout-outs, private community. You get access to a private Discord if you want to be the starter. You get everything from the previous tiers on top of getting access to Patreon exclusive film reviews. One of the coolest things, or one of my favorite tiers, it is the most expensive, is the $50 tier. You get everything else all these other tiers get on top of you get to come on every single Roundtable Sports show. So if you want to come on here to Draftaholics let your opinion, let your voice be heard about some of our takes. This is the way to do it. On top of, you can get on Wake Up and Ball with Richie and TD Monday through Friday. You can get into any roundtable. So again, check out our Patreon, link in the description box below. It helps support us tremendously. But guys, getting into this, one of the first rumors that I heard during this process over the last few days, coming out from Todd McShay, is that the Titans are looking to trade out of the first overall pick. Now, of course, at this current moment, just hearing these rumors, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is actually going to happen. Right now, it's smoke. Right now, we're just hearing what teams and players are essentially thinking. This isn't verbatim. This doesn't mean they're exactly going to do this come draft day. But the fact that the Tennessee Titans are looking to trade down, I think says a lot, because everyone has been mocking Cam Ward to them first overall. Dose, what do you think about these rumors?
It's weird. I in the past, like, I would really buy into this kind of idea of like, yeah, just don't take the quarterback. Because I think there's a very strong argument. Yeah, neither of these, let's just say Shedeur and Cam Ward, neither of these guys are the best player in the draft. Make an easy argument, they're not top 10 in the draft, either of them. So from that, it's like, yeah, makes sense that you would move out of that spot. You'd understand it. But I do think that it's not such a gap where it's like we don't have anybody that could be worthy of a high draft pick, and you have Will Levis that you're just not going to take a quarterback. Like, to me, I think the buzz makes sense if you had enough where it's like made sense to move back. Maybe they have flexibility, or they don't prefer Cam Ward, who's expected to go first. And then it opens up where it's like, well, hold up. You thought that's who we wanted, but that's not who we wanted. So we were cool with moving back all along because we had our eyes on somebody else. But I think if they have an interest of taking Ward number 1, I think ultimately that's going to be the pick. I don't think it's going to get very crazy out of that. They're going to have to take a quarterback because they need someone to play that position. But I think that usually I like to buy into the idea because I don't think that either of these guys are that good for the first pick. But in this case, I think Tennessee's still going to walk away with the quarterback at 1.
Yeah, I think you also look at a comment here from like Delusional Patriots fan who says getting a quarterback gives your franchise so much hope. And the Tennessee Titans, they went through like a completely new rebuild last offseason. But instead of doing it slowly, instead of doing the process correctly, and being good for multiple years in the future, they tried to expedite the process. They tried to do everything at once. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed. They made all these big time moves. But ultimately, it didn't work out for them, right? They signed Calvin Ridley, but it didn't work out for them. I think they're at a point because of what they did last offseason where they need a quarterback. Like, they need to make some type of move in order to be successful, in order to keep these guys' jobs based off of what they did last offseason. But at the end of the day, I think it's more so depending on what type of value can these guys get. Like, what can the Titans get ultimately if they trade down? Because if they don't get the haul they want, maybe they stay pick, maybe they pick Cam Ward. But I'm somebody who's under the assumption to where if you can get a haul, I would trade down. I don't love this quarterback class. There was a report coming out that, whether it's Cam Ward, whether it's Shedeur, they wouldn't have compared to any of the first round picks when it comes to quarterbacks taken in last year's class. So with next year's quarterback class expected to be better, if they get a haul, I would just toss it into next year. Broshmo, what do you think about this?
I go back to what Borgazzoni said about a month ago when he got hired. Hey, if there is a generational prospect in this class, we will not pass on that. I felt like that was a lot of hot air, trying to like, hey, I get that this first overall pick might not be as valuable as it's been in years past, but we still want a grip load for it if we were to move out. So I thought he was trying to make the pick more valuable. So I buy into that they want to move out of this top pick. That, hey, maybe it's not necessarily they're content with Will Levis. I think he even said this week was like, oh, no, we want to address the quarterback position. Doesn't have to be in this draft. Could be something they do in free agency. I mean, we just heard rumblings of Matthew Stafford is now going to be out there. So there's going to be guys available if they want to go a different direction and not necessarily shoot your shot, shoot your load in a quarterback class that you're not in love with. I believe that they don't have a 3rd round pick. So, I mean, just acquiring more draft capital is always a great thing. It's honestly like when it comes to draft, it's like, if you trade back, I think you're usually a winner. So if they can move back and maybe even still get their hands on a Abdul Carter, who's not working out this week because of I think it was like a stress fracture in his right foot or something. They're trying to move Harold Landry. So it's like for me, like I think they might be moving back. They don't want to move back a ton, but if they could still get their hands on that edge rusher, on that Abdul Carter, then it's probably something they're going to want to do.
For sure. Derek, what do you think about those rumors?
I mean, no doubt it's a possibility in my eyes. I mean, you're right. If you have a situation where you're the number 1 overall pick, you don't have to, there's virtually nothing that could stand in your way. If you had a guy that you were extremely confident in, then there's no reason to entertain it. There's no reason to even talk about it. You would just say, we know who we want. We're just going to move on, because ultimately who we want is who we're going to get, and no one else can take that away from us. But of course, like Broshmo said, with this year, with the quarterback class being so weak and a couple other options, you know, Tennessee might have more opportunities to trade that pick away. Say a team like, I mean, you could probably say a team like the Giants wants to trade up to do that. You know, that would be a great situation for them. My thing is yeah, do you think that Will Levis is your guy that you want to see more of in the future? Because are you willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is in his he was in his second season, had his second new head coach, and is now, you know, still trying to put it all together? I don't know what their opinions are on it, but I mean, if you are the Tennessee Titans, you're either trading back just like 2-3 spots just to ensure that you get a generational player. I say generational very loosely here. If it's so that way you have a chance at someone like a Travis Hunter, or bringing somebody else in there, but and maybe you can even still get a quarterback at number 3, because odds are Cleveland probably won't do it. And you know, whoever you trade it with is obviously going to take a quarterback. But yeah, at this point, you still have no idea what Tennessee wants to do. I mean, I very well could see them trading out of it, but I'm with Dose here. I honestly think that they'll still probably end up taking a quarterback at number 1, to be honest.
Colby, real quick, I just want to get everybody so if we all were the Titans GM at this point, because I want to hear what everybody would do. Like, you're at that spot, would you move out? Let's say you got a legitimate offer. Say you get a future first-round pick. You'll go back, like Derek says, let's go back with the Giants. Let's go back a few spots. Would you do that, one, if you were in that spot, just right now knowing what we know, which is not a ton? But then also I would throw this in here. From the Titans' perspective, even though there's changes now, like, they could look at, like, Malik Willis is actually did pretty well with Green Bay. Like, I know they didn't ask a ton of him, but like you had 2 quarterbacks that came in and it hasn't worked at all. We all know that you have to have a system, you have to have a team that's going to put it together. So the argument just in general of like, yo, we're also supporting cast-wise. We're maybe not doing the best over here what the situations looks like, because we just saw Malik Willis win every game with Green Bay. It was like, oh, he looks kind of good over there. So like, I mean, you could just look at it from that perspective. So I just want to go around, see where everybody was at on that. Like, would they make that move? Broshmo, you can jump it off.
I would trade down. If I'm the GM, if I'm the head coach, it might be a different, because like, I don't know what the leash with Callahan is. So it's like, you might have to shoot your shot or rely on the Mayo man. But if I'm the GM, I want to move this pick.
Derek, what do you think?
I agree with
Colby, either one.
Derek, go ahead.
It's tough, because if you're the Tennessee Titans, you know, you don't need a player like, you could use an Abdul Carter, but the thing is Abdul Carter's name, despite the injury that we've seen that he's dealing with, you know, he's very well linked to the Cleveland Browns, because Myles Garrett has made it very clear now at this point, he is not returning to Cleveland. So they have to get another edge guy. And that just makes all the sense in the world that Cleveland would go Abdul Carter number 2. And then if you trade too far down, you lose out on the Travis Hunter sweepstakes, who you can, you know, utilize him in a lot of different ways. You don't need a Mason Graham because you already have a Jeffrey Simmons, you know, so like honestly, if you're Tennessee, you're either trading to that number 3 for New York, because then you have still the option to go with a lot of different ways in that, or you're just trading way far back and just accumulating a ton of draft capital, and you'll be able to get a really solid player somewhere along that line, because you just don't want to end up at like a number 5 or number 6 where there's probably a few different players that you could use, but they're not in positions of need for them right now.
So if I'm hearing you right, Derek, you're basically saying if you're going to do it, just take Abdul Carter at 1.
I wouldn't. I don't even know. I don't know if I would take Abdul Carter number 1 for Tennessee. I'm just not sure, honestly.
See, I think there's still more mystery, especially based on some of the stuff that went around this week with what Cleveland's going to do in general.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, there was a couple reports that came out about Cleveland. I do think, though, when it comes to the Tennessee Titans, I think it really just depends. These are things that obviously we, the outside, are not going to know, but how do they view this quarterback class? If you think that your franchise quarterback is there, you go out and you get him. I understand that you need a quarterback to succeed in today's NFL, but I think one of the worst things that teams can do is they can stay pat and say, we have a need. We don't necessarily believe in this guy, but hey, we have a need. This is our number 1 positional need. Let's just go ahead and take the number 1 guy on the board. I think that's a very stupid move. You have to pick a guy that is going to be someone that obviously can make an immediate impact, but also is going to be someone that you believe can make a long-term kind of just impact on your team. So if they like Cam Ward, 100% go with Cam Ward. But if you don't, I would trade down, or I would even go with somebody like Abdul Carter. Rumors coming around that the Titans are probably going to trade Harold Landry. They're going to need help from a pass rush standpoint. If you don't believe in any quarterbacks in this class, wait till next year. You know, whether that's free agency, whether that's drafting a guy next year and start building the team ultimately around him. That's what I think.
Even with Landry, they need pass rush.
Yeah, they need help everywhere. I mean, look at the Titans. Like, they quite literally could use help anywhere.
Yeah.
But like, where's the optimism? Like, I look at the Titans, like, if we don't trade back and we just take a player at 1, even if we trade Landry, like, the return isn't going to be something that's like, wow, man, we got a nice little pick for next year to help us out. Like, I don't think they have 2 first-round picks next year. So it's like, are you just throwing a season away, or you legitimately believe you can win football games this year with Will Levis?
It's rough for Tennessee because, like you said, there's very few positions that they actually feel solidified in what they're doing. You obviously have Jeffrey Simmons, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the league. Mm-hmm. And then you have a secondary that's really going to start aging out in a year or two. You're losing all your linebackers. You don't really have a strong edge rush because Harold Landry supposedly is now requesting a trade out, and your offensive line still isn't really that great. I mean, you feel pretty good with the running backs that you have, but you don't have any real weapons now. So it's like, I mean, do they just go with Travis Hunter and just go and say, just literally use him both ways? Because he says that's what I want to do. I want to be used 100% of the time, 100% of the snaps on both sides. Don't take me off the field. And I'm half tempted to say that might be the best course of action for them.
Man, did you see that where they were like, "Oh, Travis, do you return kicks?" He was like, "I already got 2 jobs."
He's not trying to. I don't know, but I think that's a beautiful question, right? I mean, obviously we don't know what Travis Hunter's ultimately going to do yet, but there is a lot of NFL executives believe that Travis Hunter is going to be a quarterback at the next level with opportunities and certain packages to play offense at wide receiver. The only team that has come out supposedly and has said we view him as a wide receiver, not a cornerback, has been the Cleveland Browns. I think we're not going to get the answers that we ultimately want from Travis Hunter. He's not going to go out there on the podium and say, I'm a corner, I'm a wide receiver. He's going to go out there and he's going to give the most vague answer. He's going to say, yeah, I'm going to play both. And it's going to be up to the team that drafts me to essentially do what they want, because he does not want to lower his value. He doesn't want to shove himself into a box and say, hey, I'm just one of these things. And now the amount of teams that want him ultimately falls. But I want to ask you guys, what do you ultimately think happens with Travis Hunter? Do you believe that he's a cornerback? Do you believe that he's a wide receiver? And do you believe that he really can play on both sides of the football long-term? Dose, let's start with you.
I want to see him play on both sides. From what I want to see him play on both sides. I mean, I'm looking at it as, like, this is going to be a top pick. A lot of teams need some juice. Let's put him on both sides, man. Like, I think first and foremost, I'd put him at corner. I think, like, first and foremost, like, we can lock him in at corner. I think from his perspective, he'd prefer to be a receiver. I think financially, it makes a ton of sense. Now, depending on what team you land with, you may not have a guy to throw it to you. I feel like cornerback potentially could be more independent. Like, if you go to Cleveland, who the heck's throwing me the football? I mean, everybody looks terrible in Cleveland. So, like, what am I really going to get out of that for the first couple of seasons as we're trying to put this together? So that's how I would think about it from his perspective. I can understand wanting to play receiver for the long-term aspect there. But if I'm drafting him that high, I'm playing in both sides of the football. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put him on both sides and let it run both. And I think I'd have him specialize at cornerback.
And what about you, Broshmo?
I would run him on both, but like it kind of depends on the team that drafts him. Because like you can make an argument he's wide receiver 1 in this class. You can make an argument he's corner 1 in this class. So if you have a need at either one of those positions, then cool. He's going to be playing whatever that hole is for you full time. But ideally, I like him playing corner full time while having like maybe running 10 to 15 routes a game for any given team. It's just a lot easier to play corner full time, be in their meeting rooms and whatnot, knowing the defense, and then just going out running some routes compared to vice versa. Because comes a corner, dude, you got to know the defense. You got to be in those film rooms, those film sessions. I just think it's easier that way. There's no way he's doing it full time both ways and having a long career. There ain't no way with the NFL's physicality.
Yeah, 100%. No. I completely agree with Brochmo and his analysis on that. My opinion, I think that he is a cornerback at the next level. I personally think that's where the film looks a little bit better. I think that's where he's a little bit more developed. I think he has the ability to play a little, some splash plays there offensively. I compare him, all Patriots fans would know this, as like a Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones is a slot cornerback for the Patriots. He's also a return guy, but any given week he can have a couple of snaps offensively. I would just use Travis Hunter more from an offensive standpoint. The thing though is that if you want to use him as a wide receiver full time and then give him like 20% of the snaps on defense at cornerback, I think that's going to be significantly harder for him, because you can implement a wide receiver at any point in the game. As long as you get them their mismatches, as long as you get them into space, they're going to make plays. As when you're playing cornerback, you kind of have to pick up on those tendencies. Like, you need to get into a rhythm as a cornerback. If you just throw a guy out there at any given rep, you're throwing him out there, 20% on the defensive snaps, it's going to be significantly harder for him to kind of pick up on those tendencies on the receiver that he's going up against. And I just think that the likelihood of blown coverage or a big play happening is just more likely if you're going to play him more at wide receiver than you are at cornerback. Derek, what are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that he should be a cornerback at the next level with some looks at wide receiver. He's not going to be your wide receiver 1 or 2 in whatever team he goes to. He should be cornerback 1. And because like you said, I think his instincts are better when it comes to being a cornerback versus wide receiver. It pops off on tape. Some of the interceptions you see from him is it's natural instinct, like his ability to branch off from what he's doing to be able to make a play where most guys don't. That's what makes him special. So being able to utilize that the most is more important than him being a wide receiver and then only getting maybe 8 to 9 targets a game at most if he was ever going to be wide receiver 1. Like, that's the point. Wide receivers, yeah, they're on the field every offensive play. Not every wide receiver is. Only your top 1 or 2 guys usually are for almost 100% of the snaps. But even then, only on about 50% of those snaps do they even get a possible chance of even touching the football. And then only in about 10% of the time do they ever actually touch it. And that's on a good note. So don't utilize him in the minimalist sort of way to get for his least amount of impact. You get more impact him being on a defensive side of the field 100% of the snaps. And then on certain packages, when you have 4 wideouts, put him out there, put him into something that you can utilize him with. That would be better for Travis Hunter.
Well, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think about Travis Hunter. Do you think he's a cornerback? Do you think he's a wide receiver? We want to hear from you. But guys, the next thing that I want to get into, this is a report coming from Jordan Rannon. I believe I'm saying that right. It's like 2-3 A's in that guy's name. I want to say it's Rannon, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. But he's coming out and saying that multiple league insiders are convinced that the Giants have their sights set on Shedeur Sanders. What do you guys think about Shedeur to the Giants? Do you like that fit? Derek, let's start with you.
Oh, I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world. I could see it very well. I mean, I think I even said it like a week or 2 ago. Shedeur Sanders going to New York, just box office wise, that just makes all the sense in the world. That would just be a huge PR move for everything else. And I think that when it comes to New York, I mean, I don't know how Shedeur's skill set works well into the Giants' offensive scheme of things. But I know that, to have him throwing the football to someone like Malik Neighbors, again, somebody that's willing to take a chance on a lot of his throws, that does end up making a lot of sense to me. So I would not be surprised if Shedeur ends up there. Wasn't there like there was like a clip or something like 2 months ago where Shedeur was like, where we going? And like, that was the whole point, because that was when the Giants still had the number 1 overall pick. So obviously Shedeur had his sights on the Giants originally. So if Tennessee don't take him, or if a team don't trade up to number 1 to go and get him, then that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, obviously playing with Malik Neighbors too. There was that video a few months back where, he's just in the parking lot or some road on New York City, just passing the ball with Malik Neighbors there. So obviously already building that connection would make a ton of sense. What do you think, Dose?
I almost feel like the Giants are kind of like backed in a corner a little bit. Like, I mean, they're in a weird spot, man. Like, they're keeping Brian Dable, and then it's like they don't have a quarterback. And then the way that they built their team was like, let's not get the quarterback. Let's build around the quarterback, which mainly I'm cool with that. But like, we all saw the Hard Knocks thing, right? It was like, oh, the kid wanted Jaden Daniels and they didn't take a quarterback. So now you're kind of in a spot where it's like, all right, a year later, I mean, I guess you could go the free agent route. I mean, there's obviously the free agent route you could go, but it feels like they're kind of in a weird spot because of the way that they built this, where, yeah, if you want the excitement, if you want to potentially extend your opportunity to stay around a little bit longer if things don't get off to a hot start, you take the rookie. I mean, because as Brosmo has pointed out before, like, at least that can potentially extend some of the time of like, all right, just give it a second. And they've been patient. I mean, I think they've been more patient than some would expect with some of the guys in that front office. So, I mean, people would expect that this thing to have blown up by now, I think some. So the fact that they haven't, they feel like they're in a spot where it's like, dude, just take the quarterback. Someone's going to be sitting there, just take whoever's there and just move on. Now, I could see them being aggressive to move up, because I feel like they're in that spot where if they want more, I would not be shocked at all if they just said, let's just go up and get somebody. But I think Shedeur is going to, at very least, he should bring some stability to the position, which is what they need. They don't have like any stability there at all.
What do you think, Brosmo?
Yeah, I think Shedeur is maybe going to start like 6 games his rookie year, because this front office needs to be competitive or else they're gone. Like, you could draft a guy, you will not get to see the fruit of your labors if you have another bad year. The owner, he's fed up with it. So they're going to bring in like Russell Wilson or somebody to start the year. I think they're going to go really hard in free agency by trying to just fill in some of their holes. And then you could still get the quarterback and just go the whole Atlanta Falcons Kirk Cousins route, right? Except for, not hand in like $110 million guaranteed to a bridge quarterback.
Well, let us know what you guys think in the comment section below about Shedeur. Where do you think he's going? Do you like the fit with the Giants? Next up, I want to kind of start getting into more specific players coming out of this draft class. And there was a report coming from Walter Football that said multiple sources think that tight end out of Miami, Elijah Arroyo, could be a top 25 pick. Now, we did our tight end rankings. I could be wrong. I got to look back. I don't think any of us had him in our top 5 tight ends. And there's a world here, apparently, according to Walter Football, where this guy's viewed as tight end 3, looks like behind Colston Loveland and then Tyler Warren and Brochma. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's any world, any true hype between Arroyo actually being a top 25 pick?
Top 25 feels a little rich, but I mean, tight end 3, I mean, that's where he was after the Senior Bowl for me, because a lot of the questions with him was, well, you didn't play a lot because that ACL injury basically stole 2 years away from you, and came out, had a banger year. He unfortunately won't be able to participate in the combine this week, nursing an injury from the Senior Bowl. But golly, man, that would be something interesting. Now, Walter Football, I have a strange history with Walter Football, where it's like well, I do the whole mock the mock series where I just take a look at someone else's mock draft and mock it, like in jest. But all the time, I'm just like, he has the most wild and outlandish drafts. But like, I always give him his credit. He was the first guy on Aiden Hutchinson as a top 5 player. This was before that season, before that college football season. He was the first guy on Devin Witherspoon saying, hey, coming to the year, Devin Witherspoon might be a second round or maybe even sneaks in the first round, ends up going top 5 as well. Like, he knows his stuff. Charlie Campbell over there at Walter Football as well. They have their ear to the NFL. And I mean, I don't think they're just pulling out of thin air, man. When it comes to the NFL draft, when you least expect it, expect it. That's kind of the motto. And in a class like this, where it's like maybe you have like 3, 4, maybe 5 blue chips, and then it's like, oh, wow. But then there's like 40 players that can maybe sneak into this first round. I buy it.
Yeah, I like Arroyo. Like I said, he really popped off at the Senior Bowl, like Broshmo said, and I was there. Broshmo was there. Dion was there. He was probably my most surprising player. And maybe that's a hot take, but I did not have this guy on my radar as much as I did going into the Senior Bowl. And it felt like he was making the best contested catches consistently on a regular basis, especially in the end zone. Surprised me a lot. I mean, his stock went up tremendously. But I just can't get behind him being a first-round pick. I mean, you don't see a lot of tight ends go in the first round as it is. I just don't see a world in which Arroyo goes before Colston Loveland, before Tyler Warren. And you're telling me that both of those tight ends are gone within the top 25? I don't know about that. Maybe as a second-round pick, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate him as a second-round pick at best. But I believe that this first-round hype that he's getting, I think we need to pause our brakes a little bit. Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, nobody has benefited more other than maybe, say, a Mike Green has benefited more from the Senior Bowl and beyond than Arroyo has. I mean, to be completely honest, no one had this guy even in potentially round 2 before the Senior Bowl. Now, all of a sudden, we're hearing reports of – but I mean, here's the thing. We even heard people talking about, you know, a lot of people in the national media have wild takes that nobody really calls them out on, except for the Twitter trolls. You know, that's pretty much it. You know, I mean, again, Pat McAfee saying that Will Howard's going to be a top 40 guy, and all this other stuff. Jaden Higgins is going to be a top, you know, 25 guy. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things that go into these. And, you know, Schefter said it today. He said that he felt anywhere from picks 10 to about 35 or 40, there isn't that much of a difference. Like, you could shift and shuffle these any way that you want to, and it feels like any of those guys can go anywhere. That's kind of what they were saying about how this top, you know, how this first and second round could go for the NFL draft. I mean, again, we see plenty of guys that are like talked about as bona fide number 1 first round picks that get taken in the second round, sometimes even third round. But very rarely do you see guys that have been projected as third rounders through the entirety of this entire process all of a sudden get taken in the top 25 of the draft. It very rarely happens. So yeah, I call cap on that being a thing.
What do you think, Dose? You were there. You saw him live in action. You think he could be a top 25 pick?
I was looking back I was looking back to see where Luke Musgrave went, because I remember Luke Musgrave and he had missed a lot of time in college. And I was like, well, maybe that, you know, because honestly, I was a little surprised he went as high as he did. I don't know that he's connected in the NFL, but there was a lot of buzz on Luke Musgrave. And it understandably so. When he was out there, he looked pretty awesome. But he ended up going second round, pick 11. And to what you said earlier, Colby, like, could I see a pass where someone jumps Colston Loveland? I think I could see that path. I think tight ends are very unique, you know, because obviously the responsibilities are a lot heavier. And I think that you get a guy that, you know, is kind of more of a move tight end right now. I mean, I thought this dude throw a touchdown last season. I mean, he threw a touchdown last season. Like, he's an athlete. So I think about it as tight end's unique. We've seen such a different variety where, I mean, you just go a couple years ago when the Steelers took the big man. I can't think of dude's name out of Georgia. And it's like, this guy wasn't like anybody else at tight end. But because of that, Washington, yeah. But because of that uniqueness, I mean, everybody kind of went all next to each other, but everybody was so different that it just takes a team to fall in love with that kind of fit and that kind of style. So, and I think Loveland is a little bit unique in his style. he's much different than Tyler Warren. So I think that if there's a path where a tight end jumps Colston Loveland, I think that's on the table. That honestly would not surprise me, especially considering Colston Loveland's injury history as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he got jumped. Round 1, I'm not sure, but it wouldn't surprise me if he got jumped.
Yeah, I mean, tight end's also one of those positions where I think it's also a scheme fit. Like, do you want a guy who's going to be a better route runner, who's going to be more of a receiver? You don't really need him as a blocker. Or do you need a guy who's going to be well-rounded? Do you need a guy who's strictly going to be a blocker for you 80% of the time? So that's something that could definitely factor into it. I just think in terms of value, I wouldn't love him as a first-round pick, but there definitely is that sense of something that still needs to be tapped into. There's still that potential, I think, you can still tap into there with Arroyo. But next kind of tidbit I want to get out of here. You got something else, Dose?
I was going to make sure. I thought Broshmo had something earlier, and then he just...
Broshmo, you got something else?
I thought you had something on Elijah, so I didn't want to make sure that we didn't miss it. Maybe you didn't.
Oh, no.
I thought he was going to say something earlier.
I mean...
If it was fire, we need to hear it. You know
I was just going to bring up, we're in a...
Got you, bro.
So like we're in a class where the quarterback value's down, even the wide receiver value's down, and I've seen Tyler Warren go as high as like 5 in some mock drafts.
Wow.
Yeah, which I mean, hey, it just takes one guy to go high, and then it pushes the rest of that position group up, and you especially see that on day 2, where it's like last year it was tackle. Once that third tier started, like once one person took from the third tier, everybody took. You had guys like Caden Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, bro.
DJ Glaze, though.
That's how you look at me when you said that one.
That's great. You gave me the pause too.
So like, I think there's a world where we could see maybe those 3 go up, and maybe even a royal jump. Colston Loveland, because like if we're being honest, Loveland's not gonna be. He's not a blocker. It's not what you're getting him for. And Arroyo, at least as a move blocker, because I mean that was something I really liked at the Senior Bowl, was him getting out in front and being able to like just close off the outside of the field for like an outside zone play or something. I can see it. That's all I'm saying. There's a path. I can see the path. Is it a likely path? Probably not, but it's a path.
But tight end value, I think over the last few years has skyrocketed for teams. I mean, we all talk about this too high thing. I think tight end was the biggest beneficiary. Every team that got ahead of that, and every good team this year in the Final Four have a great tight end.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole notion of people saying, "Oh, that's too high for this position." I mean,
the rates went up a couple years ago.
I've been saying it for years. Like the best teams, they have really good tight ends. I mean, I don't think people quite realize that. Like this last year, I mean, Dallas Goedert isn't an elite tight end, but he's certainly a really good tight end. And I mean, for years, it's been whatever teams have the best tight ends in the league, they make it, and they do a lot of great things with them. Tight end is becoming like literally more valuable than wide receiver. I know wide receiver gets all these big deals and everybody gets all the money, but I would take an elite tight end over an elite wide receiver any day of the week.
I mean, with positions in general, like, gotta call it what it is. The draft is a crapshoot. Just draft good football players, regardless of positional value.
Yeah. Well, guys, look, this next one, we got to get into it because it broke my heart when I heard. Dose, I know you know about this one, and I'm sure you heard it, and I'm sure you thought about me as soon as you heard it. But there are reports coming out. I think the first person that reported was A to Z Sports, but it's come out from several different sources at this point, that edge rusher Mike Green has multiple assault charges against him, has some potential stalking charges against him from the past too. Do we think that this is something that could bring down his value, could potentially affect his draft stock? He was someone that really balled out at the Senior Bowl too. His stock has been rising significantly, but with this coming out as of late, could this be a character concern? Dose, let's start with you.
I wanted to get the exact thing pulled up here. I probably shouldn't have done that. Look, man, I don't know. Like I remember the Micah Parsons thing, and it was different, but it was like all the hazing stuff that would have come out, and like he did a lot of
stuff with his bros, man.
He did some goofy stuff, right? There was a lot of things that came out, and for fans, like it kind of dropped everybody. It was like, wait a minute, who's this guy? But he was awesome. I mean, he was awesome on the field, and I don't think I fell that much. I mean, he probably fell too far, to be honest. But Dallas was like, we don't care. We'll take that guy. So I still think, like, if that team is there that's just, like, there's certain teams that are willing to go with that, and there's certain teams that are. Jalen Carter is the most recent example, right? Jalen Carter, it feels like teams just passed on him literally for the off the field, and he comes to the combine, he's not in shape, all that stuff happens. So I don't know that it's going to be that significant based on the early stuff that I've heard, but I assume that it plays a part. I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, sounds like maybe like an ex-girlfriend situation, something like that. Bro was in his feelings, loved a little bit too hard, and it ended up getting the best of him. And, you know, when you're a football player, when you're in the media, the stock is rising. Any bad thing you do, it's going to come out of the woodworks. Broshma, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I've actually done quite a bit of digging on this specifically, and it's hard to really find anything about it. So there were 2 charges. One was in high school. I think that's what was the stalking charge. And again, high school player caught up in your feels. Not enough context for me to flat out be like, oh, okay, I can understand it, or oh, he's an absolute monster having Diddy parties. There's no context there. So it's kind of hard to say. But you get to the one at Virginia that it didn't lead to his dismissal. It was from an anonymous source, and he wasn't questioned about it. No charges were brought, and Virginia were just like, yeah, but we're still going to suspend you for that. He was like, well, okay, then I'll just hit the transfer portal. So that's ultimately when it came to the Stockton one. I saw a little bit of it on the Virginia pilot, but outside of that, that's like, I haven't seen it anywhere else. When it comes to the combine, I know the workouts and stuff are all fun, but like the biggest things there are teams being able to talk to one another and then medicals and interviews. So how he does in those interviews, that's going to affect his draft stock. I thought he did a good job at the podium, kind of addressing all that and trying to get out in front of it. I don't think it drops him out of the top 20. Like, honestly, I look, if you're the Bucks at 19, I'm just like, okay, well, send it. We need pass rush.
Run it up to the podium. Don't trip.
Run it up. Run it up.
Run up to the podium. Don't trip. Derek, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Obviously this kind of stuff is obviously very serious, and, you know, you don't want to have it be something that transcends later on into, you know, when this team's trying to pay this guy at some point, and then 2-3 years down the line, when the fame and fortune start coming in, and then stuff happens, right? Obviously, there's no new allegations that are being made on him. It's just resurfacing old stuff. And like Brushmo said, I mean, these universities a lot of times will just make decisions without any actual facts. They will just do whatever just to protect their image of their university. It doesn't really matter. And then, like you said, the whole high school thing, that's several years ago. There wasn't any charges or anything, so it is what it is. I'm not going to get into the merits of trying to pretend like I know what's going on with it. All I know is right now, this guy is climbing draft boards. This stuff was only brought up because it's from the past. And so far, it doesn't seem to me to have impacted him in any way in how that goes. So if there was a new allegation that was coming upon us, then we would have been having a different story. But I think that right now, most of that stuff has been settled, at least for right now. And Mike Green's field play is what's speaking more volumes right now. So I really don't see a situation, unless there's some new development that makes Mike Green fall out of the first round, to be honest.
Well, guys, we got one more report that I really want to get into that'll probably end up wrapping us here for the day. And it's about another edge rusher. I believe he's a guy who actually just like killed the 40 time. I think he ran just like a 4.4. And that is James Pierce. Now, he is projected to be the second best edge rusher in this class. Concerns also coming out about him. It was reported from multiple different sources that he has significant character concerns and is dropping onto draft boards. And it was also reported that teams are having concerns on his work ethic. Two major things that can plummet your draft stock. Dose, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, do we have more? I mean, honestly, I haven't heard the James Pierce thing at all. So I don't.
Dude, that's why you got me.
Yeah, well,
come on. I mean, where you been, bro?
Bro, I haven't heard that one yet. So that's new. Honestly, the chat saying that he ran the 4.47 was the latest I heard of James Pierce. And then people were like, "Yo, is he top 5?"
Like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, dude. Like I didn't know this was even a thing. So I mean, look, man. Like I said, character stuff always is going to come up. I think Broshmo hit on why that's the case, especially when you're going high in the draft. Like you're invested in these dudes, man. You know they're the face. A lot of times they're the face of your team going forward. It reflects on everybody what that player is and who he is as a person. So you need stability with wherever you're going. But I don't even remember what the original question was. Was it just like, could this affect his draft stock? Is that what you asked me?
Yeah, like, do you think it's going to affect his draft stock? What do you think, happens with him? Do you think that this is a situation where Mike Green could potentially jump him as edge rusher too? And honestly, seeing what's happening here with Pierce and Mike Green, do you think that there's a guy who's projected early second round, late first round that now jumps both of those guys and goes earlier than all of us think?
I'll say that I'm personally still up in the air on my top of the edge. Like I'm not penciled in on James Pierce at all as number 2. I'm not penciled in with Mike Green as 2 or 3 as of now. I think that door is still wide open because there's so many different styles. We talk about edge rusher. I mean, I've heard Jalen Walker getting a ton of buzz this week, and I think rightfully so. So it's going to be in the eye of the beholder when you get there. But I think James Pierce, initial watch was like, yeah, this looks like a first round kind of guy. So I'm still comfortable that that's where he's going to end up. But in terms of him locking him in at 2, I'm not comfortable with doing that right now.
Broshman, what about you?
Yeah, when it comes to like the character concerns, again, I mean we'll see what happens with interviews, or we won't see. We won't see, and we won't find out till the draft. And it's like, why is this guy falling? It was reported that he butted heads with coaches. On top of that, he got pulled over at the end of December and for reckless driving, and then was actually arrested for disobeying the officer's orders. Those were eventually dropped. So it's like there's a couple of red flags there. But he ran fast. He came in with short arms. So it's like, I think we could be talking about like I know Mikael Williams didn't participate at the combine this week, or he isn't going to because he's still coming back from that high ankle sprain. But like Shamar Stewart right now, he's tearing it up. If he were to jump,
combine, man.
It wouldn't shock me to see, because I've seen James Pierce occasionally fall to like the back end of the first round. I don't think that would shock me if that ended up being the case, if some of those came true, if some of those concerns with his character happen to be a little bit more truer than we're led to believe.
Shamar Stewart, Dose. I mean, come on, friend of the pod. You think that he can, rise up draft boards a little bit?
No, I mean,
of course he is now.
Is. Yeah.
Did you see that broad jump? Did you see that broad jump? That motherfucker. That dude had a bigger broad jump than Myles Garrett, dude. That's insane.
He looks crazy. No, he stands out. But I look, man, dudes like that, like those guys. Those are the kind of pieces where they're like, so when you got a guy that's super athletically gifted, people will overlook other things. Be like, what can this turn into at the next level? And bro, this is an NFL type of body. And I'll say, like, even when I try to watch other players, he's the guy that stands out more than anybody. It's like, wait a minute, who's that guy over there just killing people? Dude, who is that guy?
NFL position coaches will be like, production be darned. Give me those tools, because they believe in their ability and process to develop these guys.
100%.
So, hey, Dose, just have him on the show. You got to interview him. Just hit him up, bro. Get him on the show.
I didn't interview him. Shamar Stewart? I interviewed Josiah. I got Josiah Stewart.
Oh, you is Josiah, dude?
That's crazy.
Oh, never mind. I lied. He's not a friend of the podcast.
Well, we could talk about Josiah Stewart.
Never
slightly smaller.
Dude's never heard of the podcast, apparently. I take it back. All right, Derek, what do you think about the reports coming out about Pierce?
Listen, I know firsthand about this kind of thing. I just had Adonai Mitchell last year had the same report come out about him when it came to why he was able to get selected by the Indianapolis Colts with the 52nd overall pick, when everyone was saying, why is this guy not like a first rounder? Like, that was what everyone was saying, was this guy was. I was listening to Dan for weeks talk about how Adonai Mitchell at 26 made all the fucking sense of the world. And then all of a sudden, this report comes out late at the end of the first round saying, oh, there were concerns about his inability to take care of himself. Reports of, that he doesn't really work very hard, and his character and whatnot. And then Ballard went on that epic rant after he drafted him and said, we put way too much pressure on these freaking kids for this kind of stuff. And I mean, there is nothing that will drop your draft stock faster than an anonymous report that says you don't work very hard and your character speaks volumes, which is hilarious because, again, if you just ask the coaches of these players, you would know a lot more about their work ethic or their character. But I mean, it just takes one guy, one GM to say, oh, I buy that report, and then they don't draft him. And then the next 2, 3, 4, 5 GMs after that might be thinking about taking him are going to be like, oh, wait, why did they pass on him? Like, oh, maybe it is true. And then they all just follow suit. So, I mean, it very well could impact his draft stock. I don't think there's any way he falls out of the first round because, like I said, I've heard people say he should be a top 10 pick. But, yeah, I could see a definite situation where it could drop him a lot.
Well, guys, that's where we kick it off to you. What do you think about these latest reports, both from teams, both from players, surrounding this upcoming 2025 NFL Draft? Let us know in the comment section below, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching it back. Make sure to hit a big like on this video. Help support us here at Draftaholics and, of course, at Roundtable Sports. Hit that subscribe button and then hit that bell notification so that you get notified every single time we post, every single time we go live. If you want to see more of Draftaholics, we have positional breakdowns. We've already done 2 mock drafts. We will be back live next Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, like we always are, to do another mock draft. We hope to see you guys then. Make sure, again, to check out the link in our description box below to join our Patreon, get exclusive benefits. We would love to have you be a part of this. We are now also going to be doing exclusively on Patreon film breakdowns on a lot of players in this draft class and then likely NFL players also. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. But until next time, as always, we appreciate you for watching and stay safe.